Anyways. Hello everybody, I'm Quinton Reviews, and welcome back to Quinton Re2s for another second channel video. Now today's is a little bit special because I'm going to be looking at some stuff that I managed to get a few months ago when I traveled to Clarksville, Indiana for the Garfield Gathering 2024. Now this is an officially approved Garfield convention where eccentric Garfield collectors and Garfield fans travel to different places in the country every 2 years to kind of meet together, do Garfield activities, and exchange some rare merchandise. I'm going to try and lift with my knees here. If you look at this, this is all the stuff that I bought at the Garfield Collectors Convention. You may remember I had a bunch of stuff that I wanted to get rid of. I managed to sell all that stuff. I brought it in this box, and then I filled the box back up with more stuff that I bought. So it was an equivalent exchange. I have the same amount of merchandise I did before, but now I have some fun stuff that I have absolutely no room for, which is why I haven't filmed this video until just now, because I've decided it's time to go ahead and go through this and try and talk about all the cool stuff I impulsively bought and why I did it. The answer is that I have OCD and I was diagnosed a few weeks ago. But the fun answer is that I love Garfield and I definitely don't need treatment for my impulsive decision making. So I've been spending like 5 minutes now kind of sorting through all the stuff at the top of the box, just trying to figure out what order I want to address all this stuff. And I would love to go at this in chronological order, you know, just kind of going like, here's what I got on day 1, here's what I got on day 2. But that's going to be almost impossible because it's such a big box filled with so much stuff. So I'm going to try and start off with some of the more basic stuff that was, you know, borderline free actually. First of all, this is a little, I don't know if you can see that, it says Garf Fest 2024. And this was a baseball bat. I believe they had the Slugger Museum print this up. And we all got this for going to one of the banquets. We also received this little bingo marker set thing. And we used that on the actual bingo games, which I won none of those. And then we got this puzzle set, and I built this during the banquet, and then I unbuilt it and put it back in the bag. And this is all stuff that is, you know, I'm probably going to keep it, but it's probably going to go in a box somewhere. One night I also won this little Garfield plushie. I think these are available at dollar stores. I hate these. I don't think they're good. But I won this for like playing, like, I can't remember, it was like a trivia game or something, and I won a round. And because of that, I won this. And yeah, I don't like this modern trend of pillows just being like an image printed, or plushies being an image printed on a pillow. I think it's kind of cheap and lazy. But, you know, this was just the basic free stuff I received just for showing up to the banquets. So the more we go through this box, the more you're going to see some really cool rarities that I honestly would never have had a shot at finding if I hadn't gone to this convention. Also, everyone at the convention got this Garfield just for showing up and getting a tote bag, so that's another one of those things. These balloons were used as, like, you know, places that you could sit your plate down at dinner. I assume these aren't rare because they had so many of them and they basically were throwing them out. So this is probably the most special sentimental thing I brought home, and he didn't travel well, so he's a little bit broken right now. I gotta get some glue on, and I honestly need to refurbish him in some places, but this was the centerpiece of the first night. I believe it was made by a woman named Trish. And yeah, so this is made out of wood, it's hand painted, and it has the most beautiful, cute little detailing. It has, you know, a fire hydrant because he's supposed to have a birthday cake, and the joke is that there's too many candles and it's a fire hazard, so he has a fire thing. Trisha. It says on the back Trisha. So this was made by Trisha. That's who made this. And yeah, I just saw this on the first night and I thought it was the most cool, special, lovely thing. It's a little Garfield sentimental thing that was made just for this Garfield convention. And at the end of the night that we played a little game where somebody at each table got to take theirs home. I did not win, but then Pat on the final night offered to sell me his. And it's fantastic. Now, the one thing I need to do is, there's a cake that came with this, and I have the cake by itself right now because the cake and the plate had real sprinkles on it, And I just felt that that was going to, like, attract rats. So I've been trying to, like, carve the sprinkles off because they're real sprinkles and I don't want to risk it. So I'm going to maybe replace them with fake sprinkles or something like that, and then I got to glue the plate back on. But, you know, in general, this is just a really kick-ass thing that I managed to get, and it's going to be a permanent memory of how cool this Garfield convention was. Stop it, Bonbon. Get out of here. You're not allowed to eat the plastic bags. I spoke about this in the YouTube shorts I made about the convention, but at the end of the event, Mother Garfield had the most Garf bucks out of anyone in the room, and because of that, she won 4 rare fire Garfields. Now, I already have one of these somewhere, I can't tell you where, but I've never really valued it much. But now that I have another one, I really think this one's cute and fun. I'm thinking about rebooting my set at some point. I think it's got a little too hectic. You can't really appreciate the beauty of all this merchandise, so I'm definitely, in the next year, going to completely redo how I present all this. And what I love about Garfields like this one is there's a hanger on the back. So even now, I could put this guy up all by himself and just have him hanging there. And there's a lot of Garfield plushies like that, and I think I'm going to try and turn that into a bit of a gimmick. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. For now, this guy's probably just going to, you know, sit in storage until I kind of reboot things around here. This is that cake I was telling you about. It's in a little Ziploc bag right now because it has real sprinkles on it, and I'm just trying to be careful because I do think that shit would attract rats if I kept it around for 20 years. Here's a little birthday Garfield. He was a party favor, you know, for people that showed up for that first banquet that was celebrating Garfield's birthday, and he's really cute, but he's apparently not rare because everyone who showed up to that banquet got one. This is my folder they gave me. The entire convention had a big field trip vibe. So basically, if you signed up for any of the special events on any of the museums, any of the zoo stuff, you got, like, you know, homework to fill out, basically, like which animal has the biggest enclosure and all that stuff. It was very field trip coded. But basically, there's just a bunch of random stuff in here from each night of everything that I did. This is my bingo sheet and that kind of thing. You can see I got so close. At this point, we were trying to fill up the whole board. But I never won bingo because I've never won bingo in my entire life. But I figure there's another like 50 years of bingo games for me to try and perfect my craft. This is my bidding card. So in the final night of the auction, everyone was given different numbers and a different kind of, you know, little bit of Garfield art with your number. And if you wanted to bid, you know, it was a regular auction. So if they said, who's bidding $60? You'd go like, me, I'm bidding $60. But it seemed like whenever the newbies bid on anything, the bidding didn't go too high. And I was told that was like a cultural thing where they wanted to respect us, which made me sad. Because I was like, well, I want to show you guys that I also can be a pay pig. Let me spend like $1,000 on some junk I don't need, you know? Because basically the whole culture of the convention was that there were certain people at the con who were willing to spend like $1,500 on one item. And I was prepared to be like, I'm also going to spend too much money. But in the end, I spent like $150. And it was apparently because there was a mix of like there being some level of respect for the younger people who showed up, and the fact that a lot of the stuff that I bid on was really impossible to actually move back to my home, which I discovered when I went to UPS the next day. This is some art that Mother Garfield made me. This is really, really sweet. I'm thinking about getting this framed. It's just really, really nice to get some Garfield fan art. And Mother Garfield's one of the greatest in terms of drawing Garfield in her own unique style while still capturing the golden era vibe. This is a little ironic. While room hopping, I bought a small Fire Garfield. So that matches well with the big Fire Garfield I got, and now I have 2 blue Fire Garfields, and both of them are pretty cute. So maybe I'll try and attach this one to the other one. He can have a little buddy. For now, I'm going to throw him on this ugly pile of crap in my corner. So I mentioned room hopping there. This was a thing that was not a part of the official convention activities, but in my opinion, it was probably one of the main reasons you actually want to go to the Garfield Collectors Convention. Basically, half of the collectors that showed up to this thing, more like a quarter actually, a bunch of these people that showed up, they brought a bunch of Garfield merchandise that they wanted to get rid of. You know, you hoard enough Garfield stuff, you hit a wall, and you say, you know what, I actually don't want this big pile of stuff. So a lot of Garfield collectors brought a bunch of stuff to try and offload onto the other collectors. And you could go and get a list of all the people in all the rooms, and I did this myself. And when you went through, you would just go and enter these huge giant rooms with all this cool stuff. But you had to be careful because it was a very interesting ecosystem where everything was ridiculously cheap. Much, much cheaper than you would see on like eBay or anything like that. And so you had to be careful that you weren't going to be so excited by getting a deal on buying it in real life. I was in someone's room and I saw this giant Garfield Pez dispenser for $20 and I thought it was so funny and so unique. And I thought $20, if I bought this on eBay, I'd have to pay shipping. It'd be so much more. So I bought it immediately. I walk down the hallway, go check out another room, and someone else has this same thing in the box for $10. And then I keep walking, and I find somebody that has this for $5. And then I find somebody that has it for $2. And that's the interesting thing. You're not in an ecosystem of people trying to one-up you by studying like, this is the interest, this is the value, this is the availability, so I should sell it for this. You're in an ecosystem of people who want to get rid of their shit. And it's a completely different, zone of availability as well. The really rare Garfield stuff that goes for hundreds of dollars on eBay, those are in half the rooms, so they're all trying to compete with each other. And so you had to be careful that you weren't gonna, walk down the hallway and find something for $5 that you just paid $20 for. Also, this guy's kind of dirty. He's not in the best condition. He has this huge red stain on the side, but I think that might have happened during transit. It was kind of hot that summer, and a lot of this stuff is old, and you put two old things next to each other, and they melt a little bit. So I have to clean this. But still, at the end of the day, $20 for this is not the worst price I could have possibly paid. Naturally, I also had to go ahead and get the regular-sized version of that Pez dispenser. And previous to this, Garfield Pez dispensers have not interested me at all, unless I was making, a Mecha Garfield. But for some reason, in person, this giant Pez dispenser, I fell in love with it. And once I had the giant one, had to go out and find the small one in a different room. Here's my actual badge that I wore. Now, I should have asked them to write Quinton Reviews on this, but I didn't. It says Quinton Hoover. Oh, that's my real name. Whoa, Reviews isn't your real name? Yeah, I know. But this is just my name tag. This is what I wore around. Because, you want people to approach you and talk to you. This is a funny story. I visited one of the rooms and talk about people trying to get rid of things. Someone offered to sell this Canadian Garfield to me for $1. Now, as a Garfield collector, I'll tell you, $1 is a pretty acceptable price for this guy because he's not in good condition, he's pretty dirty. And they said to me, oh, he's just been out in the sun a little bit, he's a little sun bleached. And I said, no, this looks like a plush that's been in a smoker's home. It doesn't smell like that? Wait. It doesn't smell like that, but I mean, this just looks like it's been around smoke. It's just kind of gross, but I love him, Daddy. So I spent $1 on him. Now, this is a twist on the classic tourist Garfield, I believe. So there is a tourist Garfield you can find a little easier where he has a camera, I believe, and sometimes he has a drink. But this version is Canadian, so I guess he's touring Canada, which is, I assume, where you could actually find this guy. This is the receipt for the hotel, which means I can tell you directly that for the 3 or 4 days I stayed in this hotel, it cost me $611. So, you add that to the $40 each night for the banquet, and then I think I paid like $50 to go to the baseball museum. and then I probably spent like another $600 on all the merchandise. It's an expensive thing to sign up for, but I think it's worth it if you got the money. Here's some more plushies that I bought while room hopping. This is a giant Garfield Beanie Baby from the 2004 movie. I didn't know they made them this big. I always had the more tiny ones when I was a kid, and you can obviously tell that this is the direct inspiration for those bootleg Garfields that you always see on Amazon. It's very clearly like someone saw a photo of this guy and tried to replicate this without actually having one in person. So I just think it's funny to have for the lineage of how a bootleg comes to be. In general, it's a very ugly Garfield, but oh my god, look at the face. Can you hate a face that looks like that? This is a drawstring Garfield. This was actually, I think, one of the first Garfields they ever made. I want to say this is like 1983. And he is ugly. People often send these to me and go like, look at this bootleg Garfield I found. And I have to go like, that's not bootleg. It's just ugly. Because it's animatronic, right? It's an animatronic plushie. That's the gimmick. It's got the Woody string. It's got that little string in the back and you pull it. And it is supposed to say things. And I think considering how this was one of the first attempts at Garfield merchandise, he's really, really cute. Now, I believe I bought this one, A, because it was cheap. Yeah, this guy was $5. Hard to find these for $5. And I think the voice box doesn't work in a funny way, but I might be remembering wrong. So as you can hear, it kind of works, but it sounds a little bit demonic. And I just thought that was really funny. And for the price, it's a fantastic find. For $5, that's a great deal. And that's why the convention was worth it, even though the convention itself was expensive. This guy's really cute. He reminds me a little bit of a specific U.S. Acres character. But this is a Garfield. It's an old Dakin Garfield that is swimming. And he's got a little Odie inflatable. The only problem with this guy is that the feet are so sticky. I almost want to say if I'm going to put these near other if I'm going to put this guy near other plushies, I might want to put a little masking tape on here because this might be what rubbed off on the Pez Garfield, and I'm just a little bit worried that, I mean, that's really sticky, that's really gross. So get a little red masking tape, wrap that up, and preserve it to some extent. But other than that, I mean, I think this guy was really cheap. He might have been like 10, 15, but even then, that's a good price for a Garfield this old. And this is one of the good ones. I think the Dakin plushies are mainly what I like to collect. This is an old Garfield phone case, which I think is going to be really, really useful for whenever I get around to doing the Garfield video games video, because there were Garfield cell phone games before smart devices. And then, even then, I got this Garfield phone case for smart devices, and I just really like old phone aesthetics, so I'm really happy that I ended up with these. Over here you have a pencil that has a tiny boxer Garfield on the front. This is an interesting one. It is called Go Go Garfield, Cat Nappin' Garfield. And this is a kind of pullback toy of Garfield sitting on a TV. And I got this one because it has Binky the Clown, I believe he's called. The clown from the show. He's on the TV that Garfield is riding. And you don't see merchandise of him all the time. So I just thought, having some merch of that character would be really fun. I do have to take this out of the package if I'm going to put this on display, which is one of my pet peeves. I hate buying something that's been in the package for 20 years and then ripping it apart, but I'm probably going to because I just can't imagine keeping this whole thing around just for that. And I'm definitely throwing away this box because it is super irritating. Ugh, I hate packing peanuts. Styrofoam, I hate it. This is one of the first things I got at the convention. This was basically, from what I remember, the first thing I bought while room hopping. I got this in Joe's room. Joe was so cool, such a vibe, such a welcoming person. And yeah, they were selling this Garfield coffee mug, and I fell in love instantly. And I'll try and show this off. So on the front is an old comic panel of Garfield saying, "Bean me," while he's trying to get coffee. Because Garfield loves coffee, that's one of his more obscure traits, but the real fans know that Garfield loves coffee. There's a bunch of crap in here. But the thing I really love about this is that when you drink your coffee from this cup, when you tilt it up, Garfield's face is on the bottom of the mug, and that's just so genius. I immediately felt like that's a great sight gag for the YouTube channel, so of course I had to buy this, and it's in such great condition for what it is. And the fun thing is, Garfield's face is just perfect for resting a cup, you know, on a counter, because the two ears and the nose just form a great, like, three-way base for the mug itself. So it's really one of the most genius Garfield things I've ever seen, and it's just really fun, and I'm glad I bought it. This is a little bit funny. So there was this really fun Southern guy. I think he was from Nashville, or I think he's from Nashville and Memphis. His name is Pat, and Pat printed off this little guide for everybody, and if you came to his room, he gave you the guide. And this guide is for all the Garfield Christmas ornaments that are supposed to come out this year. Pat's whole thing is that he's a Garfield collector from the South, and he loves Christmas stuff. So you go into his room, and it's just, you know, Garfield Christmas ornaments, Garfield Christmas plushies, and all these other things, with a little bit of stuff from the most recent movie. But the big focus was on Garfield Christmas stuff. And I just felt so bad, because Garfield Christmas stuff is the specific genre of stuff that I don't care about. Now, Garfield Halloween stuff, that's my scene. If it's Garfield Halloween stuff, I'm probably going to buy it. Because that stuff's actually rare and is actually not a dime a dozen. Whereas the Garfield Christmas stuff feels very, oh, he's in a Santa hat? Damn, never seen that one before. But Pat was super sweet, and he printed off this little guide of all the stuff. Oh yeah, so this is, I think, the stuff that's coming out this year. So this is the stuff that's coming out this year, and this is a guide to all the Garfield Hallmark ornaments going back to the 90s. And he just printed this off for everybody, and obviously it did not survive transit great, but this is a really super great guide. The funny thing is, there's now another Hallmark ornament that I don't think is on his guide that I just got. And that is this little dude, the Baby Garfield Hallmark ornament. Now, honestly, you know, everybody's been blindsided by the merchandise from this movie, because it's been very sudden for how long they were working on the film. So I understand why he didn't have this in his little guide. And also, a lot of the older fans just didn't care about the movie at all. I liked it, but a lot of the older fans were like, bad movie, you know what I mean? But yeah, so that's a little thing that I assume Pat has now. A little extra Hallmark ornament that did come out this year. This is another thing from Joe's room. I was shown this a couple times before I finally was like, well, obviously I have to buy this. This is Garfield driving a little car filled with potpourri, I think. And the whole joke was, you know, we were like, oh, it looks like weed. So yeah, it was just the third or fourth time this got shown to me. I was like, obviously I'm gonna buy it. Just give it to me. But yeah, I actually just tried to Google this to see if I could find another one, and I can't, so I guess this is rare. I did not pay a lot for it. I paid like $5 for it, I think. But yeah, check that out. It's Garfield with some kush. So this is something to pay attention to if you're actually interested in going to the Garfield Gathering, but you don't want to pay, $1,500, $2,000 to actually be at the buffets every night and to actually have a hotel room for the whole time. So Saturday morning, there was an open event that anybody could come to, even if you didn't have any kind of ticket. And this was that the entire banquet hall was open with a bunch of tables that you could rent where you could sell your Garfield merchandise officially as part of the convention. And so you basically go in, and it started at like some ridiculous hour, like 7 a.m. or something, and it lasted until 11 a.m. And yeah, everybody had tables trying to sell their stuff and trying to get rid of all the stuff that they couldn't offload when they were just in their rooms. And there were a couple people in there that I didn't see any other time during the convention, and I didn't buy a lot that morning, but I did buy some stickers. I believe these are from Mother Garfield, and I bought a bookmark, and I specifically bought this little piece of art by Catherine Lavender of Garfield as Pac-Man. And obviously, as I'm doing a video about Garfield video games, I was like, well, obviously I have to have that. And it seemed like she was selling a bunch of one-off art like this on little stencils, and it was just adorable. I am wrong. This is from Catherine, not Katie. Next up, we have a bunch of rare video games. I got Garfield 2 for the Nintendo DS. I think I have a copy of this, but it's like European and weird, so having that copy is really important. Then here I have... This is Garfield Island, which is some kind of weird Garfield internet browser. I'm betting you money I'm not going to be able to get this working. And then here we have... Garfield Point de Croix, which is some French Garfield pixel art game. I've never seen this before. Just one of those things. You think you've collected every Garfield video game ever, and then you find this. And then this is a Garfield postcard of New Orleans, which I visited last year. And yeah, it's pretty cute, so I bought that. Now this is funny. I bought this specifically because... we thought it was a video game, but then when you open it up, it's like, it's not. It's, you know, because it says on the front, backgammon, right? So you're like, oh, it's like Garfield backgammon for like a PC, right? Nope, it's actually just backgammon. It's in a novelty. It's in a novelty case that looks like a video game, but it's not. And I just thought that was a funny bit. Alright, I now have a big pile of stuff I got while room hopping. I've been trying to put all this over here because this was really the stuff I got that actually excited me. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of this stuff. And it's mostly Garfield plushies, but there's a couple odd things in here that are pretty fun. I got this from Joe's room. Joe was selling this. I think Joe was selling this. And... she was like, yeah, it's just a weird little, like, Garfield strap, you know? I don't know what the deal is. And I was like, oh, it's a watch. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, yeah, it's a watch. There's supposed to be a watch right here. There's supposed to be a watch. And the reason I know that is because I already have one of these, you see? And you're supposed to, you Velcro it down, and there's a Garfield watch, right? So I was like, that's what you have. It's a Garfield watch, but the watch fell off. And she was like, okay, $5. And I was like, sweet. Or it might have been like $1 or something. I got some ridiculous deal. I like cut the price in half by pointing out it was damaged merchandise. But I love these, and I try and buy one of these whenever I come across it because I have the hammock set, and it's just perfect for strapping to the bottom of one of the hammocks. And I know that no one ever studies the hammock set. No one ever looks at it up close. No one ever notices that I change it every video. But it's just great that you can hang these from the bottom of the hammock and get a little bit more Garfield texture to the set. So I'm going to have 2 of these whenever I feel like looping both of these back through. So a bit of essential Garfield lore for me is that I personally think the best Garfield merchandise is Garfield wearing different outfits, Garfield wearing little tiny shirts. I go crazy for like Garfield as a firefighter, Garfield as a chef, Garfield as a blah, 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 blah. So I especially love buying anything that's like themed to a very, very specific event in history, and that's what this guy is. This is Garfield themed to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he has a shirt on that says Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it says, I love racing. And this guy is just beautiful, and he's got a little hook that seems like it will not actually survive, but in theory I could just put a nail on the wall and put this guy up, which you know I love stuff like that. But yeah, the only problem with him is he's a little big. I'm trying to buy smaller Garfields recently. He's a little big for what he is, but I love that he has that Indiana-themed t-shirt. Now here we have the plastic bag that my cat was trying to eat earlier, or at least I think it is. There's another plastic bag over here. And this plastic bag is absolutely filled with a bunch of really tiny Garfield plushies. I bought these because I just found a bunch of them, and just a bunch of tiny Garfield stuff. And I specifically love these little clip-on Garfields because, again, I've got the hammock set, and I can just cover this hammock in clip-on Garfields. And on eBay, these are surprisingly hard to find. So just finding them for like $1 or $5, I think these were, was really, really cool and really, really special. I've also got this little hillbilly Garfield. Of course, you can imagine why I might want as many official hillbilly Garfields as I can get, and I've never seen this one before. You can see a little Garfield is hanging off his ass. That's a great guy for like hanging off of the hammock and that kind of thing. I've got this Odie and Pookie set, which these are competing for the smallest Garfield merch I've ever seen. These are tiny, tiny little things. They're borderline cufflinks, and they're just so itsy-bitsy, but so cute. And then over here, you got Garfield as a pirate. I mean, just in general, I think that this was all from Barb's room. And Barb just had all the stuff you wanted, really. I mean, Joe had all the other stuff you wanted, but Barb was really like, here's all the stuff you want for $5 more than every other person selling merch. There's the little pirate guy, and I think this bag is from Barb's room. Barb and Joe really had the bulk of everything I wanted. The difference is that Joe was always like, you can have that for $1, and then Barb is like, that's $10, you know. So, you know, you get what you get. But, I mean, $5 for little tiny Garfields is still a good deal, you know what I mean? This is a little tiny Odie. I forgot about this guy. He's kind of ugly. His eyes are too big. Another thing I ended up buying a lot of is... They used to make these weird little Garfields that were like stackable. So you can kind of see here, I'm stacking them up like this, kind of like a cheerleader formation. And from what I remember, I think Barb had these, and she had like a full tower of them. So she was selling them for nothing. And And yeah, so I ended up buying a bunch of these, and I think there's a completely different version of this same idea that I also own a lot of. And in theory, if I wanted to, I could buy like 100 of these and just stack them up forever. And the little pink ones, I think, are like prototypes or something like that, so they're a little bit more rare. And yeah, I really like this version of these because they all have different shirts and stuff, and I think that's really cute. These are Garfield shoelace biters. I sometimes buy these, you guessed it, because they look good on the hammock. And from what I remember, I think Joe had a bunch of these and she was just like, I'll sell these to you for like $1 a piece. So I think I only bought one because I do hate tearing up some good packaging. But this is what it says on the tin. You know, they're Garfield shoelace biters, and they're really cool for what they are. And I love this packaging. So from here on out, things get a little bit confusing. These are the other kind of little stackable Garfields doing this. I know we just looked at these, but like I said, there's two different versions of the same idea, and they're not compatible. And yeah, I completely forgot what these look like, and these are clearly the superior ones. So I think I have some of these. I bought these specifically because I've never seen like an official top. I've never seen one that's like, this is what you put at the top of them. And that's clearly what this is. You can't stack any more on top of this guy. So I thought that was cool. But I think I only have 2 of these on hand right now. Okay, well, over on my shelf over here, I can see right now that I have another one. Hold on. So the way that these are supposed to work is that it's the same as the other ones. You know, you can stack these up. You can make a big cheerleader formation. You can kind of do this, right? Kind of have a little cheerleader thing, but I'm just now realizing that this one I bought is clearly broken. The piping isn't long enough, but you can see right here that these are a little higher quality, but they're a little more expensive than the other variation we were just looking at. I mean, if you just turn these around, you can see why. They're actually painted all the way through. And like I said, it's cool to just have this little rare one that actually stops, like ends the formation. So I gotta go out and find a bunch more of these. If you have some of these and you want to sell them to me on the down low, really cheap, you know, reach out to me by email, because I do think I want to own at least a bunch more of these. The other ones are just fine. These are really cool, I think. Alright, so you remember I said I love Garfield Halloween stuff? This is a Garfield Halloween plushie that I purchased. Now, I believe I already have this one, so you might be asking why I bought another one. The reason is because the eyes are gone, and it makes him way cooler looking. He looks like he's like a zombie or a ghost or something. So I only bought this guy because he looks a little bit creepy because those eyes are gone. But I think that was an awesome find. I also bought this little Garfield that says, I hate Mondays. I mean, you gotta go with this guy. He's a really tiny, cute fella. And of course, Garfield does indeed hate Mondays. So there's a little authenticity to that. And yeah, these are both great because right now I could stop and find a place for these on the hammock. I really am starting to love the smaller Garfields because once you have a bunch of big stuff, you're like, it's too much. It's too much. We gotta go for small stuff. And that's why I love these. But out of all the Garfield plushies I bought, this is probably the one that I am the most proud of, the one where I saw this and I said, oh my God, that is so rare and so special and so what I want. And I've never heard of this before. I've never seen this mentioned. And so I was instantly like, whatever you want for this, I'll pay it. And they didn't want much. I think they wanted like $10. And I went, hell yeah, of course. So this has everything I want, because it's a little tiny Garfield. It's small. And he's wearing a shirt for a special event. And it's the Garfield fan convention. And it was a Garfield fan convention the year that they did it Halloween themed. So it's a Halloween Garfield plush. It's cute and tiny. It represents a little historical bubble, a little moment. It is a relic of the 2005 Garfield Fest, the Garfield Gathering. And it's Halloween themed. I can't remember if I said that already. I've got a little migraine. And he looks so goofy. He's got 3 layers of teeth. He looks like a bootleg. Everything about this guy I love. He's so cheap. He's so funny. And it says on the tag here, it says, approved licensed product by Paws Incorporated. And considering that they used to work with Jim Davis, it seems like this little cheap, dumb thing actually was done with, the written approval of Paws Incorporated, and that this was a little gift for people who went to the 2005 Garf Fest. And I love it. Oh my God, he's so cute. He's so perfect. This is exactly the kind of stuff that I'm looking for. This is what I ended up spending most of my Garf bucks on. This is a Garfield magazine that comes with a fake Garfield smartphone with a bunch of fake apps. Like I said, I find the aesthetics of historical phones really interesting, and I'm collecting a bunch of fake phone props for a little skit. So, of course, having a Garfield phone was, not a want, it was a need. And it was one of those things where stuff like this, it's not an English magazine. I tried to find this on eBay. You can't find stuff like this. You have to be at the Garf Fest, and you have to spend your goddamn Garf bucks. So what I think I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through everything I won at the auction and everything that I won through the raffles in no specific order. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to show you my 3 favorite things that I got at this convention. My 4th favorite thing is the Garfield Fest 2005 plush that I've already put on the hammock. But I have 3 things that I like a little bit more than that, so I'll show those at the end. But for now, let's talk about everything I won at the Garf auction and through raffles and that kind of thing. So first of all, this is a Garfield plush by Chocolate, I think it's called. What is that? I don't know. All I know is it's an official Garfield plush of him laying down like that. It's extremely rare. And it's not a European or an American release. It's some other thing by some other company. The kind of thing where you see it at the auction table, you go online to Google it, and you can't find jack. You can't find anything. And so all I know is that it's some extremely rare foreign Garfield plushie, and I saw it on the table and I had to have it. And he's really beautiful, and I don't get it. I don't get why he's dressed like this, but it's a really cool pose. It's a really well-made plush. And in general, I'm just kind of in the vibe of like, well, yeah, of course, I collect plushies. I need this guy. And I think if I can find a spot in the hammock for him to kind of be like that, I think I don't have room for him right now, but I would like to have room for him in the future. So we'll see about that. And that boy came with 2 other things. First of all is a little Garfield pencil case, which has all the characters on it, including John. Now, merchandise with John is kind of hard to find. He doesn't have the international appeal of the animal characters, so anything with John on it you want to have. But that came with the plush, right? And I believe that this water bottle also came with the plush. And you can see it says Chocolate. I don't know what that is, but apparently this company did a bunch of weird Garfield merchandise, and I don't get it, but it's mine. I won. You lost. Speaking of winning and losing, one of the things up at the auction was a bunch of Garfield Domino's stuff. I guess Domino's pizzas. I think it's Domino's. Pizza Hut. It's Pizza Hut. I guess Pizza Hut at some point in like the 90s had like a Garfield collab, and they were selling a bunch of vintage stuff from when that happened. and it was all for sale under one thing. And I was sure this was going to sell for like $200 because it came with this rare cardboard poster that they would have put up at the stores. And so I bid on it, starting bid, $40. Nobody else bid on it. And I was just mad because I was like, well, I didn't actually want it because now I have to figure out how to get that stupid cardboard poster home. So what ended up happening was the next day when I took everything to UPS, they tried to figure out how to ship that home. And basically to ship that one poster to my house, to my apartment, it would have cost me like $300 fucking dollars. And I was like, no, absolutely not. So I Ubered to Goodwill and I left it in the Goodwill bin, and I'm confident that they just threw it away. So I know that's disappointing. I know that everyone's going to be like, well, that's lost media, Quinton. No, it's not. If it was so valuable, someone other than me would have bid on it. And maybe it did go into that Goodwill. Maybe somebody bought it for $5. I don't know. So yeah, the short version of the story is it came with the poster and a bunch of other stuff. I just gave the poster to Goodwill, but I still have all the other stuff. And it's a lot of really rare stuff in good condition. For instance, these are the boxes that Pizza Hut would have actually sold you the Garfield pizza in. There's a little weird inflatable Garfield Frisbee that I guess maybe came with the meals. I have no idea. And this is really the reason I bid on the actual stuff. There's a bunch of really unique Garfield cups. Him skydiving, him using a hang glider, and then him in space. And this is one of my big hot takes. Viacom, Paramount, if you're watching this, there's not enough Garfield in space stuff. It is an underutilized niche. Snoopy is stealing all your real estate in that area. You need to get some Garfield in space stuff. Because, this is just an adorable cup, and this is really the reason I wanted all this stuff. Now, this is the main toy that I guess came with these meals. It is Garfield on a little parachute, kind of parachuting in. And I also have just realized that I was also given a kite. This is clearly a kite, and I guess I could take this out and fly a kite in the air, and it has Garfield kind of holding onto the kite, which is pretty cute, but clearly a cheap product, so I doubt it even works anymore. This is the little Garfield phone that I won in the raffle. I showed this off a little bit in the YouTube shorts, so I'm not going to get it out again. But like I said, I'm collecting phone props for a skit, so just having a little tiny Garfield phone was obviously something that I needed to do. So I put like $11 into the raffle, $1 per ticket, and I won. So that's really the way, that's how you win raffles, I guess, because everyone else at my table did the same thing, and they all won the raffles they were going for. So yeah, just put in like $11. That's how you win those. Odie broke in transit. No, I think I got him. So, to be honest with you, when it came to the auction at the end of the con, I was not extremely impressed with the selection that they had. They really didn't have a lot of plushies that were in the genre of stuff that I go for. They didn't have a lot of, like, Garfield as a sailor, Garfield as a chef. They didn't have a lot of that stuff. But they did have a lot of these Anesco Garfield figures. These were, according to the people of the con, Anesco was the first company to work with the Garfield brand. I didn't know that. But the thing about the Anesco figures is they've always stood out to me as like something for the older generation, not something for the younger generation. So I don't really have a lot of Anesco figures. And so I told myself, well, I'm not even going to bid on much tonight. But then they were just walking around with these two Anesco figures. And I was just looking at these things. And I said, I want them. I want these. I want these really, really bad. Because they're just perfect. They're just perfect. And I said afterwards to somebody, I held these up and I said, they don't make Garfield merch like this anymore. This is so perfect. One of the ears is on backwards because it fell out in transit and I'm just trying to decide which way looks better. So the two figures are Odie with a heart that says, "Be mine," and Garfield holding a photo of himself, and the caption says, "I think I'm in love." And the person who was walking around with these figures, she saw that I just suddenly was enamored with them, just out of the blue. I'd been looking at them earlier and I didn't care, but then when they were actually walking around, I just fell in love, and she could tell, and she came over and she mimed like Odie was giving me a kiss, and then I was like, I have to have these, and I bid on them until I won. And I think I paid a pretty penny for these. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, I look at these right now, This is what Garfield merchandise should be like. This is not what Garfield merchandise is like under Nickelodeon. Garfield merchandise does not have that character. It doesn't have that charm. This is perfect. And specifically this, I think, is one of the most perfect Garfield things I've ever seen. And they just don't make it like this anymore. I also think those two came with this Garfield Valentine's Day mug. I don't care about this. It was just a bonus. I'm never gonna use this. Okay, I think I've talked about pretty much everything except for the main three that I have left. I'm looking around to make sure I didn't set something down and then completely forget about it, but I think that's pretty much everything. It's a lot of stuff, obviously, but luckily it's a lot of tiny stuff, so I should be able to find room for a lot of it. But these are the three things I got that were the most special to me, that really made the entire trip worth it. First of all, Garfield. So, throughout the con, Nancy was giving these away. The story Nancy told was she found somebody in Pennsylvania, which is where Nancy lives, and the person had this gimmick that they were kind of doing like Etsy style, where they'd take gourds and paint them up like cats. And Nancy said, well, hey, can you do some Garfield gourds? And she sold a bunch of these. And some of them were tiny, some of them were big. I wanted the tiny one. And yeah, we just, all the newbies, we all fell in love with this. We were all like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And we all started calling it Gourdfield, which is so obvious. And the funny thing is that Nancy did not use that name. She wasn't like, come get your own Gourdfield. She was just like, we have these gourd Garfields. And then all the young people were like, holy shit, Garfield! And so this was one of the main things I bought the morning where it was like open tables and you could buy anything. Because she was selling these that day and it was the only day she had stuff for sale. And yeah, I mean, Garfield, what else can you say? It's my most treasured thing from the convention, where it's specifically like, yeah, this came from Nancy. Nancy, bless her heart, she runs the event. And you gotta love Garfield. Next up, a big shout out once again to Joe. Joe was really one of the big special people that made me feel welcomed at this thing. She was a little bit on the younger side, so I feel like I just connected with. She had a similar sense of humor to me. A lot of these old people, you know, they were kind of early Gen X kind of boomers, and they just found us young people irritating. Joe just felt like a safe space. I hope to God that both of us go to the next one of these. And we were talking about white whales, and I was talking about all the stuff I've always wanted that I've never been able to get. All these Garfield things that I've never been able to get a hold of. And I mentioned this. And she told me that somewhere she was sure that she had that. And she went through bins and bins, boxes and boxes, and she finally found it. And she sold it to me for like $15 or something like that. I mean, I apologize to Joe. Apologies to Joe if it was less than that. But this is one of those things. It's famous online. I've always wanted it. But since it went viral on TikTok, you can't find it for less than like $100. And I know it's not worth that, so I won't pay for it. But now I have it. And that is the official Garfield light switch cover. Isn't it gorgeous? So yeah, as you can guess, the gimmick of this thing is you take the screws on your light switch out. You put this on, and then you stick Garfield over it, and then suddenly Garfield controls the lights in your room. And it's sexy. It's one of the coolest Garfield things ever. And like I said, it's a little bit rare. It's become extremely rare now that everybody on TikTok wants one. And the big thing about this one is that it needs cleaning. It's really dirty. I should not be rubbing my eyes since I'm saying it's dirty. But, I mean, oh my god, I have it now, and I can't wait to get this. Oh my shit, my eye itches so much right now. So the entire time I was at this place, I was constantly told, be wary of Barb's room. Barb was this collector who was trying to get out of the game because she was a little bit older, but she was famous for collecting stuff in foreign markets. She had connections all over the world, and she could be like, yo, this is from China, this is from Japan, this is from Korea, and she knew her dates, she knew her merchandise, and because a lot of it's from overseas, she was selling it for a lot. She'd be like, that's $40, that's $50. And so I was constantly told, be careful in Barbara's room. You're going to see some stuff you definitely want. She's going to be the only person that has it. You're going to pay an arm and a leg. So be careful. Her prices are really out there. So I showed up to Barb's room. Garfield phone in the box, $20. Now, the reason she was probably selling it for so little, it's complex. First of all, her specialty is in international merchandise. This is an American release. Second of all, it's the Garfield Collectors Convention. Everybody but me probably has a Garfield phone. Third of all, she didn't seem connected to the internet. She didn't seem like she knew that everybody on the earth wants one of these and that they sell for like $300. So yeah, she sold me this. $20 in the box, mint condition. Instructions and everything. Look at this. I've never seen this before. Oh my god, that's crazy. Has anyone ever seen that before? I've never seen that before. And look at this right here. Look at this. A Garfield electric scale that is so paradoxical to his brand. I've never seen that. That's now on my white whale list. And yeah, look at this. I mean, yeah, it's dusty, it's dirty, but for the love of Christ, it's iconic. It's fucking iconic. Yeah, it definitely needs wiped down. But it's iconic. And the way this works, I recently actually, since the convention, I bought another one of these that was broken because I wanted to learn how to fix them. The reason so many of them are broke is there's a tab here. And so the eyes are supposed to be open unless this tab is pushed in. Naturally, when you put the phone down, the tab gets pushed in. But the tab is held by these little plastic brackets, which means that as soon as those brackets break, the eyes come loose and then they're just like closed or half open. But what I figured out is that with a bread twist tie, you can fix that in like half an hour. In fact, next time I go on Smosh Pit, I want to fix their Garfield phone. But anyways, yeah, so that's the thing about this guy. And now that I look at him in person, he's got like tape on him and stuff. So I think he's been taken out of the box before. So it's not like he was just sitting in the box all these decades. But, like, what room do I have to complain about this guy having some scuff marks? It's a goddamn Garfield phone in the box, $20. And he works. He does that crap. And I've wanted one of these forever, but anytime they're on eBay, they sell for, like, 150, 200, 250, $300. And it's just like, I know my shit enough to know that there are too many of these in the world for them to be worth that. So I was always like, I'm not going to pay $100. I'm going to pay less than $100. And sometimes they'd go for 80 and I'd go, not good enough. Not good enough for me. $20 with the box, with the little slip-in paper. I mean, got the plastic and everything. I'm so proud of this purchase. And there's so much goddamn dust in my eyes from all the stuff I'm taking out. Here, check this out. Fucking iconic. Hello, operator. I'd like to reach the base department. So yeah, I mean, that's just awesome. And like I said, this room is not really set up for this kind of merchandise. If it doesn't go in the hammock, I don't know where to put it. But one day, this beauty is going to be on display. And I'm just going to be so proud to show off my Garfield phone. Oh, my back hurts. Ugh. So we actually have a fourth thing to show off before I end the video. This is another thing I got in Barb's room. I paid $50 for this. And once again, if this sold on eBay, it'd sell for like $300. Because it was sold at Barb's room, because it was sold at the Garfield convention in Barb's room, it's $50 and everyone was complaining about how much she charges. Okay? So, when I saw this, my jaw hit the floor. It's the banner that they would put up at Kennywood for the Garfield ride at Kennywood. It is the banner for Garfield's Nightmare that was like pointing the way if you wanted to go and get on that ride. Like this is, if you've seen the Garfield Defunctland video, this is the ride he talks about in that video. And now I have something official from that ride. You can't find stuff from that ride. They didn't do a lot of merch. And it was officially ordered by Nickelodeon that everything on the ride be destroyed. So like people like me didn't buy, the hot dog and the sunglasses. But yeah, so now I have this amazing banner. And once again, I got to find some way to display this. I'm going to be redoing the entire set space. Don't really want to talk about why yet. But I'm going to be redoing everything on the set. So at some point, I got to find space to hang this guy up. And what I'm thinking is, I might need about twice as much space for the Garfield stuff, because I just have too much cool Garfield stuff, and we'll have to see how I can figure out how I can make that work. But yeah, the Garfield convention was fantastic. If you can afford it, I would really much encourage you to go if you're genuine. And what I mean by that is if you actually kind of want to buy some Garfield merch, if you actually consider yourself a Garfield fan or a Garfield collector, or someone who wants to buy some of the stuff that I showed off in this video, I think this is a great convention to go to. If you want to go because you think it's cringe and you think it's sad that all these old collectors are meeting up every 2 years to show off their genuine love for Garfield, and you want to document how they're all cringe and low-cow, get a life. You know, that's how I feel about that. You should get a life. Because there's something genuinely wholesome and nice about the Garfield Gathering, and I very much want to bring in the next generation so that we can kind of help out, you know, with making this a thing that's going to last another couple decades. And I had an absolute great time, and I think this has been announced publicly, but the next one's going to be in Missouri. I think it's called Branson, Missouri. It's this little tourist trap town city thing. And it's a place that I want to go because it's where the Beverly Hillbillies truck is. And so I get to go twice. I get to go for the Garfield Gathering, and I get to go for the Beverly Hillbillies truck. 2 different trips, I'm assuming right now. And yeah, so for the next year and a half, I'm going to be basically saving up all the Garfield stuff I want to get rid of. So when we go to that Garfield Gathering again, I'm going to have so much stuff to get rid of and so much stuff to sell and to give away, and I'm just really looking forward to it. It's such a special time, and I can't wait to go again. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that.